The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you for joining us today for part 2 of our 3-part cloud series, The Tech Savvy CFO. So I'd like to introduce who's on the line today. My name is Chad O'Neillan, and I'm one of the executive account managers here at BAASS Business Solutions. And I've been in the software business for about 3 years now. Prior to this, I spent 9 years in the IT hardware business working with top global manufacturers, distribution partners, and the VAR 500. I'm now going to hand over the presentation to Mitch to introduce himself and kick things off. Go ahead, Mitch.
Thanks, Chad. I'm Mitch McNichol, and I've been in the technology industry for over 25 years, 19 of which has been with BAASS Business Solutions, and I love helping businesses become more successful through the use of technology. And today we'll be talking about how CFOs can become tech savvy, specifically how shifts in technology affect your customers, why the pace of change is increasing the need for insight, how to bring relevance to your financial data, and how to help your managers know more. As technology upends markets, smart businesses are being proactive. They're leveraging technology to go to global faster, to deliver new services at lower costs, or to package services in different ways like subscriptions. The pace of change is increasing the demand for insight from all stakeholders, yourself, your executive peers, and organizational managers. These questions are examples that our customers have had to answer with urgency in order to understand if their strategies are working and if they're executing on their strategies the way they need to be executing on them. And guess who has the answers to these questions? The CFO. There's been a lot of changes in the past 10 years, but one constant is that CFOs are still viewed as the single source of truth. No major financial decision, whether it's funding or investment, gets made without consulting the financial truth reflected in financial and management reports. The CFO is the one that's accountable for getting these numbers right. So finance organizations are doing the best they can to meet the demand for insight that's being accelerated by business change. The CEB is an organization that collects and shares best practices on what companies are doing to improve performance, and has some very interesting data on how finance organizations are responding to the need for insight. If we take a look at the chart here on the slide, you can see that there's been an increase of about 64% of data over the past 2 years. 21% has stayed about the same, and a 15% decrease. Average length of management reports is 21 pages long, with about 6,000 to 7,500 data points on each report. The same survey asked how much of this information is actually useful. How much of it is giving insight into whether shifting strategies are working? How much is giving insight into whether operations are executing on that strategy effectively? The answer is sobering. Although finance teams are responding by sharing more data, creating more visibility, the business is not getting the insight it needs. There's an abundance of visibility and a shortage of insight. Only 5% of the information in management reports is deemed useful. Last year, Intact conducted a CFO perspective survey on business and technology priorities for CFOs. 80% of them cited reporting as the #1 initiative to support their businesses. So what are some practical steps you can take as a CFO to replace visibility with insight that's more useful to the business? There are 4 steps you can take to go from visibility to insight. And in each of these 4 steps, getting tech savvy about using the tools that are available can make the journey fast and impactful. These 4 steps are as follows. The first is to make the metrics as relevant as possible. There are many ways in which every business is common, but there are ways in which every business is unique as well. And one of the key steps to getting to insight is to be cognizant of the ways in which your business is unique. The second step is keeping the metrics accurate. And this may seem obvious at first, but the reason is to pay close attention because of the fundamental tension between relevance and accuracy. And in many organizations, this tension is not being resolved effectively. I was reading a new study conducted by Ernst & Young. They surveyed thousands of CFOs across 25 countries. And what they found was that in 2015, CFO confidence in reporting had dropped across all key aspects relative to 2014 levels. So we'll be picking apart why that tension exists and how getting tech savvy about the problem can help you resolve that tension effectively and deliver insights that are both relevant and accurate. The third step we're going to cover is making the metrics more actionable for managers. If there's one trait that we all share regardless of our seniority, function, or business, it's that we are time-starved. There are tech-savvy strategies you can use to make the metrics more understandable and actionable, and I'll share a few important ones that we have helped our customers implement. The fourth step is going from visibility to insight, is to keep the metrics timely. For many of our customers, their time to close books was creeping up steadily before they came to Intact. Part of the reason that managers find the management reporting packet not to be useful is because the age of the metrics. By the time they get the metrics that reflect what had happened a month or a quarter ago, the pace of the business has already forced them to make operational decisions without the benefit of data. They end up flying blind. We'll talk about tech-savvy strategies you can use to make the metrics more timely and provide more useful insights. With that, let's take a closer look at the first step, and that's making the metrics relevant. If you look at a traditional ERP system, the role of the system is to record a record is fairly narrow. They were built to capture transaction data and do an adequate job of taking that transaction data and reporting on GAAP performance, which is the absolute must-have in terms of reporting and visibility. But those GAAP reports, while necessary, are not always sufficient. In order for the metrics to be relevant to managers, two other things need to happen. One is that the organizations need another set of metrics that measure the success of their unique strategies. And two, they need to monitor metrics that reflect operational targets, not just financial targets. And for many finance organizations, this is a painful process. I want to share the stories of two organizations that approached us with a need to deliver more relevant metrics, what drove the need for those metrics, and what they were able to accomplish with our help. STS International is an Inc. 5000 IT outsourcer that doubled its revenue in a period of 3 years. Currently, they are delivering projects in over 86 countries, and they constantly shift the locations from which they deliver services to clients to deliver at the lowest possible cost. What they are able to do with Intact and looking at their financial data by the context of geography and project was pretty sophisticated. By using Intact to track labor costs by geography, the company was able to make profit-maximizing decisions about which countries should service specific projects. Once it starts a new project, STS immediately monitors how the project is doing and decides whether it should continue the project as is or move it to another location. The other benefit of having granular financial data by project is that they were able to build up a history of project costs and profitability, and this allowed them to make smarter decisions to balance top-line growth considerations and sticking to their margin targets. The financial information was made more relevant and useful to managers and leaders by looking at it through the context of geography and projects. Context is a way to make the data more relevant. The other way to make data more relevant is to go beyond financial information and deliver operational information as well. Looking at operational metrics was very important to Aperion. Aperion is a cloud software company that provides a service to large enterprises that want to create and maintain internal app stores with mobile apps for use by their employees. Aperion wasn't always a cloud software company. They started off as a development services company, but pivoted their company when they recognized the market opportunity. Now, for a cloud software company, it's certainly important to keep a close eye on the GAAP metrics such as revenue, expense, and cash. But what determines the long-term health of a SaaS company is how well it can manage its unit economics, how well it can ensure that the lifetime value from a customer subscription to their service exceeds the cost of acquiring that customer. And in order to assess progress towards that goal, it's critical to look at operational measures. The board discussions at Aperion are focused on those operational measures, such as committed monthly recurring revenue, churn or retention of customers, and the average customer lifetime value. What Aperion was able to accomplish with a modern ERP like Intact was deliver board-ready insights into not just the GAAP measures, but those hugely important operational measures. Both STS International and Aperion made huge strides in moving from visibility to insight by taking advantage of modern ERP systems that capture more than just transaction data. These systems capture business context and capture it at the source, as the information is first recorded. Take a look at this sales order, for example. In addition to all the basic information that's absolutely essential to capture to fulfill the right product to the right customer at the right time, and all the information that's needed to recognize the revenues appropriately for this order, you can also capture all the context that are specific to the important levers in business strategy. For example, the project that this order is associated with, or the channel partner that it's associated with, or even the employee that it's associated with. Adding context after the fact, which can lead to inaccuracies and delays, context is added at the source. And this is just the beginning, because to ensure that insights remain relevant and accurate as the business changes, an ERP system needs to do more than just offer the ability to define a set of static fields on a form. Strategy is not static. To be responsive to the changing needs of the business, you need the ability to adapt your financial system without having to wait for IT resources. The finance team must be able to add additional context to capture and report on new aspects of the business without relying on IT. Going back to the example of the sales order we just saw, if the company shifts to an industry-based GTM, tracking industries for all revenues and expenses must be something that finance has the ability to do quickly, so that the value for industry is captured with every sales order. And that industry is a filter by which you can look at performance to generate relevant insights. This is one major failing with legacy ERP systems and even some cloud-based ERPs. They rely on customization by IT in order to adapt the system for changes, which slows your ability to deliver relevant insights. You stay stuck in visibility mode. It's also important to ensure that when you're capturing context at the source, the data is entered accurately. That means having a degree of control that allows finance to specify that the system shouldn't accept transactions without required values being entered, or by providing a list of values that ensure data quality. As you shift the capturing of context to the source of the transaction, it's important to keep the data entry process from becoming burdensome. So providing default values or default combinations of values can make a smoother user experience. Having all of these requirements met is a win-win-win situation. A win for users who benefit from a streamlined user experience, a win for finance because reporting can be made more relevant through the flexible capture of context and subsequent analysis, and a win for the business because metrics tailored for strategies are the most important ones to assess. To help our customers achieve these goals, we've embedded a set of capabilities that provide finance with the ultimate flexibility in responding to business change and the controls to ensure accuracy in the capture of these business contexts. And by doing that, we've fundamentally changed what an ERP system is capable of doing in terms of delivering relevant insights to the business. CFOs, the finance team, and the business as a whole get insights that are relevant because they are tailored to current business strategies and insights that are as accurate as the gap metrics that ERP systems are counted on to deliver. So that covers how you can get tech savvy and takes 2 of the 4 steps of moving from visibility to insight. Let's dive into detail on the 3rd step. Again, if there's one trait that we all share, regardless of seniority, function of business, it's that we're time-starved. There are tech-savvy strategies you can use to make the metrics more understandable and actionable, and I want to share a few important ones that we help our customers implement. Strategies that have enabled managers to go quickly from insight to action. One of the fun facts from neuroscience is that 2/3 of the brain's neurons are involved in visual process in some way. So maybe it's no surprise that visualizations are some of the fastest ways to create quick understanding of data. A few years ago, the only way to gain the benefits of visualizations for financial and operational information was to take your transaction data from your ERP system and put it into a dedicated BI system to visualize the data. But that's changed now, and visualizations have become native to modern ERP systems. In fact, the modern financial reports look nothing like the reports you may be used to from a legacy ERP system. Your finance teams They become a powerful tool in helping managers extract more meaning from data because visualizations can accomplish three things. First, they help focus attention. One core value of data visualizations is that they allow managers to quickly identify areas that require attention. In that way, they can shorten the entire process of prioritizing action or further investigation. Second, they can say more with less. In a very small amount of real estate, in just one screen, they can convey a huge amount of information. And third, they help managers take in a broader story because visualizations allow for information to be packed much more densely. You can convey a fuller picture of what's going on in the business in a much shorter amount of time. What you see on this iPad is a dashboard from Intact. And at the very top of the dashboard, you see the performance cards that reflect the most important KPIs for the organization. For this organization, from an operational perspective, it was important to reduce the cost of sales. So they've chosen to highlight that metric in a performance card. And right away, this visualization conveys that this key metric is trending in the wrong direction. The dashboard also conveys that another key metric, margin, is trending in the wrong direction as well. And in addition to doing that, the dashboard also provides, right below the performance cards, a detailed table on margins by business line. And this table also has visual indicators on it. These indicators convey that the Fortune 5000 business line in particular is weighing down overall margins. So the manager looking at this dashboard knows right away that the important discussion to have at the next operational meeting is to talk about how the business can get margins in this specific area back in line. And that manager also knows that this margin problem is not the result of a one-time shock. What you see on the detailed report of margin by business line are a set of spark lines, visualizations that we added to reports because our customers wanted the traditional report to convey more information without becoming overwhelming. The small graphs display the trends in revenue over the year. So in addition to providing information on revenues for the past quarter, the report instantly conveys that revenues for the F5000 business line have been trending downward steadily. The small visualizations pack outsized value. Because a manager can quickly identify any month-to-month variability or long-term upward trends, and if he or she sees something troubling over time, they can engage in a dialogue necessary to resolve the issue. And this same screen conveys the final important value of visualizations for managers in that they can tell a broader story. By each individual element saying so much more with a smaller amount of screen real estate, it's possible to bring together multiple financial measures, multiple operational measures at both the summary level and the detail level on a single screen, allowing managers to look at the business holistically. The most important takeaway from this discussion on visualizations is that they are no longer the purview of just business intelligence tools. Financial and operational reports today are a far cry from what you may have experienced in the past. The right modern ERP solution can deliver the value in terms of creating understanding of what's going on in the business and making the metrics more actionable directly within the system of record without the need for secondary tools. The third step in moving from visibility to insight is to ensure that the metrics you're delivering are timely. For many organizations, the biggest bottleneck to delivering timely information is the close process. A survey of hundreds of CFOs, controllers, and finance staff on the topic of financial close revealed that over 90% of them are under pressure to close faster. And the reasons for this are not surprising. The business is moving faster, companies are experimenting with growth strategies, executives need to know what's working and what's not working. And for many organizations, the close and the resulting financial and management reports are the first view into performance and the potential need for course corrections. Anything that hinders the close bears inspection in order to improve the timeliness and the value of decision-making data. And for our customers, life before Intact was full of challenges that slowed down the close process. One of the culprits for the slow close process is the lack of automation. Existing ERP systems don't provide sufficient automation, so the spreadsheet work can become overwhelming as transaction volumes grow or as new shadow spreadsheets get created to support new business processes and new financial management processes brought on by the change. There's a number of areas where manual process can slow down the close. Areas like revenue recognition, accruals, manual entries for adjustments, and amortizations. What I want to focus on are the ones that are specifically driven from geographic growth, because this is such a common strategy that companies are pursuing to drive growth. Finance managers in your organization need to figure out how to quickly integrate new locations into your processes and financial reporting infrastructure, including disparate charts of accounts. You need to establish process consistency in terms of controls and workflows and how your organization as a whole deals with vendors. Multiple entities introduce the complexity of intercompany transactions, which many companies need to deal with manually during the close in order to deliver accurate results. Without automation, you're left with consolidating data from multiple databases, perhaps one at each location, using spreadsheets to roll up summary financial performance. Some of you are probably looking to expand not just domestically, but globally into new countries. Without automation in place, at the very least, you'll be forced to manually convert transactions from one currency into another. But if you need to report locally in multiple currencies, as well as report consolidated results in US dollars, you'll be left manually tracking foreign exchange gains and losses. So geographic expansion to drive growth can quickly become a source of manual work, frustration, and spreadsheets for your finance team, and a huge delay in closing. DataView, one of Intact's customers, is a case study in geographic growth, both in terms of the pains that caused the finance team in getting insights out quickly, and in terms of how they were able to solve those challenges and have the finance team get more timely insights out of the business. DataView provides a dynamic platform through which marketers can purchase advertising and execute marketing campaigns. DataView's primary growth driver was acquisitions to expand their reach into new markets. Early in their history, they acquired several new entities in Europe as well as Asia. For the finance team, the impact of all these acquisitions was a much slower close process, as they had to manually consolidate financial results across these global locations, manually adjust for currency. And that result was that it took almost 3 weeks in order to get any visibility into how the company was performing. And for a company that's operating in the technologically fueled and fast-paced industry of digital advertising, that just wasn't acceptable. By switching to Intact, an ERP solution that has multi-entity capabilities that are native to the architecture, they were able to automate the entire consolidation process and drop their close process down to just 8 days. And what it did for them was to more continuously find ways to improve their workflows and focus on the future of their company versus looking backwards. They were able to get quick visibility into revenues by campaigns they run for individual customers, profitability, as well as get a more accurate read on true profitability by country operations. This was challenging for them in the past because expenses that were incurred in a single country were actually for serving campaigns whose revenues were being generated in another country. And by automating allocation through Intact, they were able to get much more accurate visibility. So if you're a multi-location organization that's struggling with a long close because of geographic complexity of your organizations, pay close attention to the close process and how you can leverage automation to shorten that close. Because if you can shorten that close, you have the opportunity to deliver data that's much more valuable to the business because it's timely.
Thanks, Mitch. We're going to go ahead and get into tech savvy about automation. So let's go back to the time you last switched, and let's assume you followed the rough best practices for selecting an accounting or ERP solution. You identified what your specific business and accounting purpose requirements were, from procure to pay, to order to cash, to monthly close, to management reporting, and more. You evaluated the different solutions out there and found that one had to be the best fit for your requirements. And you likely ended up with a great result, a state-of-the-art solution that met all of your needs and delivered the process automation that your organization needed to keep finance processes working smoothly. But fast forward to today, and you find yourself in a very different situation. A proliferation of spreadsheets across the finance organization, a growing need for hiring accounting and operational staff, an increasing time to close the books, a widening gulf between available and needed decision-making information. You're experiencing the symptoms of the automation gap. The basic issue is that the automation gap comes about when the process needs to change faster than the system's capabilities. So as long as a business process needs are changing, you open yourself up to the possibility that any new system at its best is a stopgap measure. The key to minimizing the risk is to set the stage for ongoing growth by switching to a system whose capabilities, like your business, are dynamic. Find a system that can deliver new innovations and capabilities on a frequent, ongoing basis, so as your business changes or as revenue recognition standards change, you have a system that provides more automation support for those changes. But that's not enough. It's of no use to switch to a system that can't support process change and offers new features. If the cost to set up those features to support new processes is too high, you need to be tech savvy and find the systems whose new capabilities are easy to adopt. If you are using an on-premise accounting or financial management system today, the first tech-savvy tip is to switch to a multi-tenant cloud ERP solution. When most people think of the advantages of cloud solutions over on-premise solutions, the first advantage that comes to mind is the elimination of the need for organizations to maintain their own hardware to support their business applications. While this is a compelling reason to switch to the cloud, there are even more compelling reasons when you look at the cloud questions through the lens of the automation gap. The other significant difference between cloud and on-premise solutions is the frequency with which these solutions are updated with major new features. And cloud solutions outpace on-premise solutions in this area because of their fundamental architectural differences. An on-premise solution vendor needs to deliver their application on multiple hardware and software platforms. Their engineering dollars are divided into two buckets: building new features and ensuring their new features work potentially dozens of combinations of hardware and software. In contrast, a cloud vendor only has one hardware and software platform to support, leaving much more of its R&D budget to new features development. It's for this reason that cloud ERP vendors can deliver innovations multiple times a year, while on-premise vendors usually deliver updates once every multiple years. Intacct, for example, delivers new features that help address evolving process requirements once a quarter, and they do so without requiring customers to do any upgrade work. So the net result is that customers have access to new innovations on the most frequent basis in the industry. The second tech-savvy tip is to be mindful of the customer customization trap. The customization trap is created when new features are delivered, but in order to put those features into use, programming or scripting is required to adapt those features to specific process requirements. This customization trap forces finance organizations to be dependent on IT resources in order to reduce automation gaps. And as you look at the cloud solutions, you'll see a difference between ERP systems that are configuration-driven and customization-driven. A configuration-driven system gives you the power of deeper capabilities without having to resort to programming or scripting based on work done by consultants or IT. The value of a configuration-driven system is that deeper functionality is more accessible and easier to adopt. It's of little value if your automation gap can be addressed, but only at the cost of managing and maintaining IT-based customizations. While you may think the move from on-premise systems to cloud systems has removed the focus on customizations, that's not necessarily the case. Not all cloud ERPs are created equal. Intacct is a configuration-driven ERP, and we have frequent conversations with many frustrated finance organizations that are using customization-driven cloud ERP systems. A recent example is an organization called Professional Testing Services. Professional Testing Services administers and maintains licensing and certification programs. They were using a customization-driven cloud ERP solution and found themselves with a steep learning curve and additional IT-related and consulting costs costs that they needed to incur on a yearly basis every time there was a business change that created an automation gap. These costs were on the order of $50,000 a year. By switching to Intact, a configuration-driven solution, they were able to save that annual IT expenditure and avoid creating any automation gaps in the areas of reporting and manually data re-entry. Opting for a configuration-driven ERP solution brings a number of tangible benefits. First, adapting to business changes such as changing workflows, reports, adding entities can all be done with clicks or configuration, so you can keep the automation gap from expanding without relying on IT. Second, configuration-based systems empower finance because the finance organization can control systems to adapt to business change, avoiding customizations, also reducing risk and upgrade efforts. With a configuration-based solution, the vendor ensures that the configuration capabilities keep working through the upgrades. When creating script-based customizations, the burden to maintain and ensure the scripts keep working falls on the customer. So as you look to close the automation gap by switching systems, keep two tech-savvy tips in mind. First, if you're on an on-premise solution, migrate off the on-premise solution as quickly as possible so you can tap into the regular innovations delivered by a cloud solution. And second, as you look at the cloud solutions, evaluate carefully whether it's a configuration-driven solution or a customization-driven solution. So it's important to be tech-savvy about automation. Switching to multi-tenant cloud ERP and configuration-driven cloud ERP puts you in a better position for the future. Making this switch ensures that your business needs evolve, your system can evolve with you. Your system can continue to deliver the process automation that's going to keep those insights timely, not just day after you finish the implementation, but over the course of years of growth and change. As you work to shift from delivering visibilities to insights, and you worked your way through these 4 steps to do that, there's tremendous potential to get technology working for you and not against you. What technology can do for you is to get you to a point where you're sustainable. So we're hoping that you have enjoyed the presentation today on the tech-savvy CFO from visibility to insight. This presentation will be available on our BAASS website under news/webinars and shared through our YouTube channel. You can find it by searching BAASS Tube in the search field. We're going to go ahead and open things up for questions, so feel free to ask now, or we're happy to discuss after the webinar, and our information is available online now.